I couldn't think anymore. Hands were everywhere, exploring, gripping, guiding me exactly where they wanted. I was surrounded, my body caught between them, my senses overloaded, taken piece by piece. There was no pause, no escape from the intensity. They moved in sync, leaving me with nothing but heat, pleasure, and the sound of deep voices murmuring their approval. "Look at her," one of them said, his voice thick with satisfaction. I was completely lost in it. I had never felt anything like this, and I didn't want it to stop. "Before we begin, let me ask you something. How far do you think this will go? Stay until the end, and I promise it's worth it. If you like stories like this, hit like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's next. Let's dive in. Are you drinking alone tonight?" The voice was smooth, deep, belonging to a man who didn't second-guess himself. I turned slightly, finding Marcus already beside me, close enough that I could catch the faint scent of whiskey and expensive cologne. He was older, confident, well-dressed with a little grey at his temples, a sharp jawline, and a presence that made it clear he got what he wanted. I had noticed him the moment I walked in, and I had been waiting for him to do exactly this. I glanced at him over my glass. "Not any more, I guess?" He smirked like he appreciated the way I played along. "That's a shame," he said, nodding toward my empty glass. "Because I was about to buy you another." I shrugged, tilting my head. "You still can, but I should warn you I don't usually stick around long." His eyes darkened, amused. "Neither do I." We both knew where this was heading. No games, no small talk, just two people looking for the same thing. I leaned in slightly, just enough for my dress to shift for him to notice. "Your place?" I asked. He finished his drink in one smooth motion and set the glass down with a quiet clink. "Let's go." I grabbed my purse, feeling his hand press lightly against the small of my back as he guided me toward the door. The night was still young, and I had a feeling it was about to get a whole lot more interesting. We arrived at Marcus's place shortly after. The door had barely clicked shut before his hands found me, strong, certain, no hesitation, just claiming exactly how I wanted it. His mouth crashed into mine as he backed me toward the bedroom, fingers working my dress down my shoulders, letting it slip to the floor. His jacket followed, then his belt, his shirt clothes disappearing between frantic kisses, leaving nothing between us by the time we reached the bed. I was breathless, my skin flushed, my body already aching for him, but before I could even think he was on his knees. A deep hum rumbled from his throat as his hands gripped my thighs, parting them effortlessly. "I've been wanting to feel you on my lips since the second you walked over," he said. "Then he did." I gasped, my fingers gripping the sheets as warmth flooded through me, slow at first, teasing, making sure I felt every flick of his tongue, every soft scrape of stubble against my skin. I had expected him to be good, but not this good. His grip tightened, drawing me in, keeping me close, making me lose myself as I trembled beneath him. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, he pulled back. Lips, wet eyes, dark and hungry. "Turn around," he commanded, his voice quiet but firm. A man used to being obeyed. I did as he said, barely catching my breath before his hands found my hips and pulled me toward him. No waiting, no hesitation, just a deep, steady push filling me completely. I gasped, my hands gripping the sheets as he held me still, letting me feel him adjust to him. "That's it," he murmured, running a hand down my back, possessive, steady, like he had all night. Then he moved. The rhythm was deep, steady, consuming his grip firm, his body pressing into mine with slow, deliberate intensity that sent sharp waves of pleasure through me. My breath hitched my nails, digging into the sheets, the heat coiling tight in my stomach, higher, higher, until suddenly release. My body shuddered beneath him, heat surging through me, leaving me trembling. His grip tightened. His pace grew deeper, more urgent, and with one last deep push, he followed his body, tensing against mine, before sinking completely. For a moment, there was nothing but heavy breaths, damp skin, and the lingering pulse of satisfaction. Then a deep exhale, a slow smirk. "Damn," he murmured, his fingers tracing lazily down my spine. I swallowed, still catching my breath, still reeling from what had just happened. I had thought older men were slower, gentler, more restrained. I was very, very wrong, and I had no idea that this night was just the beginning. I stretched my body, still warm and heavy from last night. The morning light crept through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. I glanced at Marcus beside me, still steady, completely at ease. I hadn't planned on staying the night, but here I was, slipping out of bed. I grabbed my dress and stepped into it, smoothing out the fabric as I glanced around for my heels. No reason to linger. It had been a good night, a great night actually, but that's all it was. One night. I made my way toward the door, but the rich scent of fresh coffee stopped me. Turning, I found Marcus already in the kitchen, 2 mugs sitting beside him, awake, watching me. "You were going to sneak out without saying goodbye." His voice was slow, easy, the same confidence from last night curling around each word. I smirked, shrugging. "Figured you'd still be sleeping. Besides, I didn't think you were the type to do morning after coffee." "I'm full of surprises." He slid one of the mugs toward me. I hesitated, then stepped forward and took it. Why not? For a moment we just stood there, sipping the silence between us. Thick, not awkward, just charged. Then he leaned casually against the counter. "I've got some friends coming over tonight. Just a few of my old buddies having a drink, playing some cards. You should stay." I raised a brow, feeling the weight of his gaze. "Oh." I set my coffee down, tilting my head slightly. "And what kind of night are you expecting this to be?" His smirk deepened, slow, knowing a good one. I let out a soft laugh, shaking my head. "Are they as good as you? Why don't you stay and find out?" I knew what he was really offering, and I already knew my answer. Last night was better than I expected. What would it be like to experience that times 5? Slowly, I picked up my coffee again and took another sip. "Guess I'm staying a little longer." His eyes darkened with approval. Good choice. By late afternoon, I was restless. The air in the apartment felt thick, charged. I stretched on the couch, stealing a glance at the clock. Not much longer now. The anticipation curled deep in my stomach, slow and steady. "Mind if I take a shower?" I asked. Though we both knew this wasn't just about hot water, Marcus smirked, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "Be my guest." I slipped into the bathroom, shutting the door behind me. The moment the water turned on, steam wrapped around me, warm and heavy. I stepped under the spray, exhaling slowly. Last night was still on my skin. The heat, the ache, the way Marcus had moved against me. But tonight would be something else. My fingers trailed down my stomach along the curve of my thighs. How would they see me? The thought sent a slow shiver through me. A smirk tugged at my lips as I reached for the soap, gliding it over my skin, letting the warmth settle deep. I should have been nervous, I wasn't. By the time I stepped out, my body was flushed ready. I grabbed a towel, drying off quickly, before slipping into Marcus's robe, the fabric soft, oversized, carrying the faint scent of his cologne. Then I heard it. Voices low. More than one. I froze for half a second. They were already here. I exhaled slowly. No turning back now. I smirked, adjusted the robe loosely around my waist, and stepped out. The moment I stepped into the living room, the air shifted. The low hum of conversation faded, replaced by something heavier. Expectation. I felt it in their gazes, in the way their eyes roamed over me. Assessing waiting. I didn't hesitate. Didn't need to. I walked straight to Marcus, settling beside him on the couch. His hand found my thigh, instantly warm, firm, possessive, but assured. He smirked, fingers grazing the hem of my robe, teasing before he pulled me in, capturing my lips in a slow, deep kiss. There was no rush, no urgency, just confidence. He wanted me to feel it, to feel them watching, waiting. Then they moved. A shift in posture, a rustle of fabric, the quiet click of a belt being unfastened. I pulled back slightly, glancing up. One of them, tall, broad, standing close enough to touch, watched me with quiet expectation, his hand resting on himself, fingers moving in slow, lazy strokes. "Go on," Marcus murmured, his fingers still tracing the edge of my robe. "Let's get started." A pulse of heat ran through me. I leaned forward, and the first brush of my lips sent a shiver through him. I took my time, teasing, exploring, letting him feel the slow, deliberate pace. His breath hitched a deep approving sound, escaping as his fingers tangled in my hair, guiding, not forcing. Then another hand. A thumb traced my bottom lip, coaxing it open, before something warm and firm pressed against it, waiting to be taken. One by one they joined, a gentle touch on my cheek, a hand cupping the back of my head, guiding me smoothly from one to the next. I was surrounded, exploring hands, roaming touches, the scent of them, the feel of them. I was caught in it, immersed. They were patient, letting me move between them at my own pace, letting me feel the contrast in shape, size, heat. Hands smoothed over my shoulders, tilting my chin, keeping me exactly where they wanted. I let myself sink into it. The rhythm, the sensation, the sounds of deep murmurs and quiet groans of men fully indulging in the pleasure of being satisfied. Then a shift. Someone took my hand, pulling me up, guiding me toward the couch. "Come here," he said. One of them had taken a seat, watching me expectantly. Legs spread, waiting. I followed instinctively, climbing into his lap, straddling him, feeling the solid press of his body beneath me. His hands found my waist, steady and unyielding, as he guided me down, slowly, deliberately. My breath caught a small gasp escaping as I settled fully onto him. A deep sound rumbled in his chest, his fingers flexing against my hips as he adjusted, urging me to move. "That's it," he murmured, his voice rough with approval. I rolled against him, found a rhythm, let myself sink into the slow, consuming sensation of being taken. But I wasn't just his exploring hands roamed, palming, kneading, tracing the curves of my body, rolling over sensitive skin, teasing, igniting every nerve. A hand on my jaw tilted my head up, lips crashing into mine, stealing the small moans slipping past. I was held, touched, explored completely, giving in to them. Then another shift, a new grip on my waist, a presence behind me. "Breathe," a voice murmured against my ear. I barely had a moment to prepare before he settled behind me. Positioning himself carefully, I let out a sharp inhale, overwhelmed, adjusting, stretching to take them both completely enveloped. Their hands steadied me, one at my hips, the other gripping my waist, moving in tandem perfectly in sync, drawing me deeper into the sensation. A deep moan escaped me, my fingers digging into the chest beneath me as pleasure overwhelmed, consumed, wrecked me. "Look at her," one of them murmured, his voice thick with approval, embracing every moment. And I was time blurred in a haze of movement. Shifting hands, quiet murmurs, and deep groans. I was guided from one to the next, taken apart piece by piece, made to feel every second of it. There was no rush. They took their time switching places, making sure I felt them fully before moving on. By the time the last hands released me, I was drained, trembling and completely overwhelmed. My body was still humming, my breath uneven. Then came soft chuckles, low murmurs of approval. Marcus crouched beside me, tilting my chin up, brushing a damp strand of hair from my face. "Didn't think you'd last," he murmured, smirking. Neither had I. And I had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time. The room seemed to pulse with the afterglow of what had just happened. My body felt weightless yet heavy, like I was floating and sinking all at once. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and cologne, the faint hum of satisfaction lingering in the quiet. I lay on the couch, my limbs loose, my mind a haze of sensations and fragmented thoughts. Marcus's touch still lingered on my skin. His smirk burned into my memory, and the murmurs of the others echoed in my ears. I had crossed a threshold I hadn't even known existed, and now here I was on the other side trying to make sense of it all. Marcus stood stretching with the ease of a man who was entirely in his element. He glanced at me, his eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and something deeper respect, maybe, or recognition. "You good?" he asked, his voice low, casual, but with an edge that told me he was paying attention to my answer. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. "Yeah," I managed, my voice hoarse. "Just processing." He chuckled, the sound warm, almost affectionate. "Take your time. That was a lot." One of the others, a tall man with a deep voice, the one who had murmured, "Look at her," earlier, stood and poured himself a drink from a bottle on the counter. "She's tougher than she looks," he said, his tone approving, almost teasing. He raised his glass in my direction, a silent toast before taking a sip. I felt a flush creep up my neck, not from embarrassment, but from the weight of their attention. It wasn't predatory or dismissive. It was appreciative, like I had earned something, proven something not just to them, but to myself. I sat up slowly, pulling the robe tighter around me, suddenly aware of how exposed I still felt. Even after everything, Marcus noticed his gaze softening just a fraction. "You want some water? Or something stronger?" he asked, already moving toward the kitchen. "Water," I said, my voice steadier now. "Please." He nodded, grabbing a glass and filling it from a pitcher in the fridge. The others were still there, lounging, talking quietly among themselves, but their focus had shifted slightly, giving me space to breathe. I took the glass from Marcus, our fingers brushing for a moment, and drank deeply, the cool liquid grounding me, pulling me back into my body. "Thanks," I said, setting the glass down. I looked at him, then at the others who were now watching me with a mix of curiosity and ease. "So, what happens now?" The question hung in the air, heavier than I'd intended. I wasn't just asking about the next hour or the rest of the night. I was asking about the bigger picture. What did this mean? For me, for them, for the strange electric connection we'd just forged. I had walked into this expecting a fleeting thrill, a night to forget my frustrations and lose myself in sensation. But now sitting here, I felt something else. A shift. A crack in the walls I'd built around myself. Marcus leaned against the counter. His arms crossed, his expression thoughtful. "That's up to you, Sophia," he said, his voice deliberate, like he was choosing his words carefully. "You can walk out that door, go back to your life, and this stays what it was, a hell of a night. Or—" He paused, his eyes locking onto mine. "You can see where this goes." I blinked, caught off guard by the openness of his answer. "Where it goes?" I echoed, my voice quieter now. "What does that even mean?" The tall man with the deep voice chuckled, setting his drink down. "It means you don't have to decide right now," he said. "But you're not the type to run from something just because it's intense, I can tell." I raised an eyebrow, a spark of my usual confidence flickering back to life. "Oh, you think you know me now?" He grinned, unperturbed. "I know enough." Marcus smirked, clearly amused by the exchange. "He's not wrong," he said. "You've got fire, Sophia. That's why you're here. That's why you stayed." I didn't respond right away, letting their words settle. They weren't wrong, but admitting that felt like stepping onto a tightrope without a net. I had spent so long playing it safe, keeping my desires at arm's length, that this, whatever this was, felt like a leap into the unknown. And yet I wasn't scared. Not really. I was curious, hungry even for what might come next. I leaned back, crossing my arms, mirroring Marcus's posture. "So what are you suggesting?" I asked, my tone light, but with an edge of challenge. "I just show up here every weekend, like it's a book club." The room erupted in laughter, the tension breaking like a wave. Marcus shook his head, still chuckling. "Not quite," he said. "But you're welcome back. Any time. No pressure. No strings. Just an open door." An open door. The phrase stuck with me, simple but loaded. It wasn't a promise or a demand. It was an invitation, one I could accept or ignore as I saw fit. I glanced around the room at the men who had just shared this wild, overwhelming night with me. They were strangers in a way, but they didn't feel like it. There was a camaraderie here, a trust that had formed in the heat of the moment, and I was part of it whether I wanted to be or not. "I'll think about it," I said finally, my voice steady. "But don't get too cocky. I'm not that easy to pin down." Marcus's smirk widened, his eyes glinting with approval. "Wouldn't dream of it." The others nodded, their expressions a mix of amusement and respect. The tall man raised his glass again. "To open doors," he said, his voice warm. I smiled, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. "To open doors," I echoed, lifting my water glass in a mock toast. The night wound down after that. The others started to leave one by one, offering casual goodbyes and lingering glances that told me this wasn't the last I'd see of them. Marcus walked them to the door, his demeanour as steady and confident as ever. When he returned, he sat beside me on the couch, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence, but not so close as to crowd me. "You don't have to decide tonight," he said, his voice softer now, almost gentle. "But you should know you're not just some fling to me or to them. You're different." I turned to look at him, searching his face for any hint of insincerity. There was none. His eyes were steady, his expression open, and for the first time I saw a glimpse of the man behind the confidence. The charm, different. How I asked my voice, barely above a whisper. He leaned back, considering the question. "You're not afraid to want what you want," he said finally. "Most people are. They hide it, bury it, pretend it doesn't exist. But you own it. That's rare. His words hit me harder than I expected, stirring something deep in my chest. I had spent so long second-guessing myself, questioning my desires, that hearing someone see me, really see me, was almost overwhelming. I swallowed my throat tight. I don't always feel that way, I admitted. Sometimes I feel like I'm just chasing something I can't name. He nodded like he understood. Maybe you are. But that's not a bad thing. Chasing keeps you moving, keeps you alive. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just sat there letting the silence stretch between us. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt earned, like we'd said what needed to be said. And now we could just be. Eventually I stood smoothing out the robe. I should go, I said, though a part of me didn't want to. Marcus nodded, standing as well. You know where to find me, he said, his tone light, but with an undercurrent of sincerity. I smiled, grabbing my things. Yeah, I do. He walked me to the door, his hand resting lightly on my back, just like it had the night before. The gesture felt familiar, now almost comforting. As I stepped into the hallway, I turned back, meeting his gaze. Thanks, I said the word, carrying more weight than I intended. For everything. His lips curved into a small, genuine smile. Any time, Sophia. The city was quiet. As I walked home, the cool night air, a sharp contrast to the warmth still lingering in my body. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, exhilaration, uncertainty, a strange, quiet pride I had stepped into something wild, something most people would shy away from, and I had come out the other side, not just intact, but more myself somehow. The days that followed were a blur of normalcy and strangeness. I went to work, met friends for drinks, ran errands, but everything felt different, like I was carrying a secret that no one else could see. I kept expecting regret to creep in, the kind of guilt that society tells you to feel after a night like that. But it didn't come. Instead, there was a sense of freedom, a realization that I had taken a risk and found something I hadn't known I was looking for. Marcus texted me a few days later, a simple message. You okay? I stared at it for a long time before replying. Better than okay. And I meant it. We met for coffee a week later. Just the two of us. He was the same. Marcus confident, charming with that knowing smirk that made my pulse quicken. But there was a new ease between us. A connection forged in the intensity of that night. We didn't talk about it directly, but it was there in the way he looked at me, in the way I didn't shy away from his gaze. You look settled, he said at one point, stirring his coffee with a thoughtful expression. I raised an eyebrow, smiling. Settled? That's a new one. He chuckled. You know what I mean. Like you're not fighting yourself anymore. I thought about that for a moment, then nodded. Maybe you're right. The truth was, I had spent so long defining myself by what I thought I should want. Stability, predictability, the kind of life that looks good on paper, that I had forgotten how to listen to what I actually needed. That night with Marcus and his friends hadn't given me all the answers, but it had shown me a part of myself I hadn't known existed. A part that was bold, unapologetic, alive. Life didn't change overnight. I still had moments of doubt, still had to navigate the messiness of being human. But I also had moments of clarity, moments where I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. I started taking more risks, not just in the way I had with Marcus, but in my work, my friendships, my choices. I said yes to things that scared me, and every time I did, I heard Marcus's voice in my head, calm and steady. You're not afraid to want what you want. Months later, I ran into one of the men from that night at a gallery opening. He was alone, standing by a painting with a glass of wine in his hand. I hesitated, unsure if I should approach, but he caught my eye and smiled, nodding me over. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, his voice warm, familiar. I smiled, feeling a strange mix of nostalgia and confidence. "Didn't expect to see you either." We talked for a while about art, about the city, about nothing in particular. But there was an undercurrent, a shared history that made every word feel like more than it was. Before we parted ways, he looked at me, his expression serious. "You're doing all right," he said. Not a question, but a statement. I nodded, feeling the truth of it in my bones. "Yeah, I am." He smiled, a small, knowing smile. "Good." I watched him walk away, a sense of gratitude settling in my chest. That night had been a turning point. Not because it defined me, but because it reminded me that I could choose who I wanted to be. Marcus and his friends hadn't given me a roadmap, but they had given me something better. A mirror reflecting back the parts of myself I had been too afraid to see. Some men dream of a night like this, but only a few could actually handle it. Be honest. Do you think you could keep up with a woman like her? Let me know in the comments. I always read them. Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed the story and subscribe for more. Thanks for reading. See you in the next story.